it was asking for the memorial for the Clayton Jackson McGhie. It laid out a little bit about history about the lynching. And at first I looked at it and I thought, oh wow, I don't know if I want to do this. Just because it's so tough, that topic, the whole idea of it. It's not that I didn't believe in the reason behind it, but at first when I looked at it, I thought, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. But of course, like being incredibly curious, I had to go look at the site. And the site where the memorial is across the street from the Cozy Bar. You probably have all been there. But behind the wall that's now there, there's a really ugly building, a low garage with all sorts of like stuff falling off of it. It's really ugly. And then there was sort of a nice wall to the side that was painted brown, but altogether, you know, it was just kind of an awful space, and there were lots of junk cars parked there at that time. So I looked at the site and I thought, oh boy, this is really a problem now. And I said, the only way, to myself, you know, I'm talking to myself this whole time, oh, the only way I could build a sculpture here is to build a wall to hide all of that. And, you know, big aha moment, a wall. The wall can be the sculpture. So while I really love Maya Lin's wall, I wasn't exactly thinking of it when I conceived of the idea of the wall. I was actually thinking of the wall as a solution to the problem of the site, which I think is kind of interesting. You know, you're confronted with a problem. And then there was still the problem of the content. You know, how could a purely visual sculpture do justice to everything that was in this call for entries? I mean, they called for reconciliation, for healing, for remembering finally what had happened. So content-wise, I was still unsure. But with the idea of the wall, I thought, well, incorporate writing. And then if you have some writing and some visuals together, you can address a whole lot more, many more issues. So that was my second aha. And along that line, I thought if I worked with a writer, there could be a collaboration, and I should work with an African-American writer, because then there would be an African-American voice and my voice. And in combination again, you know, I thought that would be strong. So I called up my best friend's husband, Anthony Peyton Porter, who lived in Minneapolis, and who I knew because he edited several journals, and I'd been reading some of his self-published writings for a long time. And Anthony is succinct. He's a succinct writer. He writes to the point, and he's really thoughtful. He's a great editor. When I approached him about how would you like to work on this, he said, this was his words exactly, yeah, I'd like to work on it, and I think I have something to say. And for me, that cinched it, because, you know, I had a partner, he had something to say, I knew I had something to say, we had a challenge, a job to do, and with the idea of the wall and the words, I decided to go ahead with my proposal. So the first step, for those of you that don't know, you get a call for entries, and that is sent out to a wide, you know, variety of artists. This was sent, I don't know how it was publicized, but I know there were applicants from Iowa, from other states, so it was kind of a national search. And then you send your slides in, and you do drawings, and you make a written proposal, but you don't do a model yet. Once you get that written proposal in, they decide, they pick finalists, and they picked 5 finalists. We each got $200, which is a little on the low end of what you usually get, is about $1,000 usually to do a model and to put your proposal together. But living in Duluth, you know, I mean, I really wanted, at this point, I'm starting to buy into my idea, and I wanted to sell it. So this is the model I created for the memorial. It's about the size of my dining room table, and it's carefully measured. It has everything measured out this way, and the height but it doesn't have the layout of the land, which is, you know, slopes down. But everything else is very exact. Let's see. Why don't you go on to another slide? Or here, I will. There. Okay, so there I am in the Duluth Art Institute's Lincoln building, which they rented to me for my studio for this, with the memorial model. So these steps up here are, it's another aesthetic decision that was guided by being able to cover that much up. In other words, the windows start here on the back wall. So, but this exact point is where the windows stop. So I could go up another 2 feet and get higher there. So once I decided on the stepped version, then I thought, well, what, you know, how can that help? How can that sort of design you move around the memorial? Well, if there's a capstone on it, then that is the sort of header of the book. It's kind of like a book, and it'll help you come this way and move this way. Of course, you could come into the memorial this way and go the other way, but I think really the flow is kind of like this. And so that's kind of what that design element does. Yeah, so the point of that is that addressing the issues of a site, addressing the issues of the content, lead you to the form. And you spend a lot of time as an artist sort of musing and thinking about that until you figure out, you know, what you're doing. There's a lot of other things that I had to address, that I had to like figure out a way to talk to the committee and the other representatives of the city at my proposal. You know, when I was doing my proposal, there's this huge array of people, lots of suits, some architects, you know, there's some people out there, and I had to show them that I had thought of every contingency. And just for example, one of the contingencies I thought of, people ask, well, why are they up so high? Well, it's because on the Peace Memorial, people urinate on the bronze that's down below. So I wanted it above waist high, you know, so that just wouldn't be a disrespectful thing that would happen to these men. So that's, all of a sudden, that's why that's there. This ledge is here, so it doesn't look like they're hanging. It looks like they're standing on something. There's the cozy bar across the street, so no benches. And one time I had to present in front of the city council, and you know, one of the city councilors said, well, how come there's no benches? And I just reminded them that the cozy bar was across the street, and why don't we erect the memorial and see how it's respected, and then maybe we could add a bench. And so that's a way you can approach that subject without saying, well, you know, all the people that hang out down there, they're gonna hang around there. You know, you don't have to say it that way, but you just sort of say it in a positive way. And I'm really pleased that there hasn't been any graffiti, but if there would be, the whole thing is coated with a graffiti coating which can be washed off and then reapplied. And so if there was spray paint on there, it would be washed off, the paint would come with it, the coating would be reapplied. So that, you know, that's about as much as I could do with maintenance. You know, I try to make it so that it can survive, but it still has to be washed and maintained a little bit by the city. The capstone, it says an event has happened upon which it is difficult to speak and impossible to remain silent. To me, that when Anthony found that quote, we had to use it at the very head, and that was sort of an example of our collaboration. Like,